November jobs report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics released this week showing some staggering numbers in unemployment. The latest data finds that despite a job opportunity increase, nearly 700,000 women are still missing from the workforce. And for Black women, the unemployment has surged to roughly 7.5%, outpacing the broader workforce and sounding an alarm for the U.S. labor market. Award-winning gender economist Katika Roy recently released her analysis of these numbers, and she joins us now for more. Katika, thank you for being with us, as you have been before, to really break down what this means. Talk to us about what this crisis does show for the entire economy.
Well, you know what we're actually seeing is that if you look at Black women alone, Black women have lost almost 300,000 jobs, while men have gained 600,000 jobs. You're talking about a swing of almost 1 million jobs. That is not a slowdown. That is a redistribution of opportunity.
That is fascinating to hear you put it that way. And because most people would say, listen, these aren't 700,000 women who are just missing or electing to leave the workforce. Most of them were fired or pushed out, right? Is that what you would say?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we've seen. So when we look at, since the pandemic, 700,000 women overall are missing from the labor force. And in that same time frame, over 6 million women have actually become eligible to participate in the labor force. So reasonably, you would think that their labor force participation should increase, but that's not what we're seeing. And just since February, we've seen almost 100,000 men join the labor force. So you're really talking about not a personal choice. You're talking about structural exclusion.
So why are Black women, you think, being affected at this level? And do you think that it seems that they're being specifically targeted?
Well, that's what, I can't speak to what exactly is happening in terms of being specifically targeted. What I can tell you is that the numbers are staggering. When we look at Black women, over 600,000 have been economically sidelined. One of the things that we look at is that if you compare it to white women, Black women's labor force is about 5 times smaller than white women. If white women had been economically sidelined at the same rate as Black women, we would be talking about over 3 million white women. That's the entire labor force of Pennsylvania. I mean, this impact is massive.
That is so striking, especially when you put it, that simply in terms of the size of the workforce for white women in the state of Pennsylvania. Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, she called the rising unemployment rates of Black women a canary in the coal mine, an economic indicator for everyone else. Why is that? What should anyone else glean from these numbers we're seeing?
Well, there's 2 things that are happening, Ron. One of the things that we know from the numbers is that because Black women sit at the intersection of gender and race, they tend to be the first impacted, but they really are the signal for the entire economy. And we have seen that. The other piece is that their labor force, it doesn't just impact Black women. Their forced labor force exits this year alone have cost us $9.2 billion in GDP growth. So you're talking about impacts to Social Security, Medicare, the solvency of banks, the solvency of insurers. This will impact everybody.
Katika, what would you say to someone who maybe sees these numbers and says, I don't think that Black women are being targeted. Maybe this is just sort of a coincidence to see this number. Maybe it's their job performance. What would you say to someone who is skeptical in that way?
The data does not vet that out. What the data shows is that Black women are the most educated cohort in the United States. In fact, they are more likely to be underemployed, not because of their own doing, but because they are undervalued in the labor force. That's one of the reasons why we saw that there was a huge representation, or has been historically a huge representation of Black women in the federal labor force, and they were disproportionately impacted by the cuts.
So what needs to change systematically to close this economic gap that we're seeing?
Well, one of the things that, you mentioned Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, and one of the things that she has talked about is demanding that the Fed actually talk about the real unemployment rate, right? So the unemployment rate overall for the latest jobs report was 4.5%. If you look at it for Black women, it's actually 7.5%, which is 70% higher than what the Fed considers full employment. But if you include the labor force exits of Black women this year, their unemployment climbs to over 10%, or in plain language, over 2 times what the Fed considers full employment. So we need to demand that the Fed and that our policymakers are operating off of data. Otherwise, it undermines the economy for everyone.
And you're saying it ends up being a much bigger problem than we even realize along the way. Gender economist Katika Roy, thank you so much for being with us to break down these numbers. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
I love hearing yes.
Imagine being good to go without daily HIV pills. Good to go, unscripted. Good to go daily HIV pills. For adults who are undetectable, Cabenuva is the only complete, long-acting HIV treatment you can get every other month. It's problems and depression. If these occur, get
Well, good afternoon to everyone. It is indeed a great joy to be here with you, and I want to thank my dear friend and colleague and cabinet partner, Attorney General Pam Bondi, for her leadership. Pam, thank you so much for how much you care about the people of America and this great country, in particular here in Memphis. And thank you for your vigilance in upholding our nation's laws, and specifically the reason why we are all here today. That's for making our streets and our neighborhoods and our communities safe. I also want to thank Governor Lee and Senators Blackburn and Haggerty for your commitment to improving the lives of people in Memphis and in all of Tennessee. And also thank you to Director Gaddy Serralta and the U.S. Marshals and the FBI agents who are on the front lines every single day to restore safety to our streets in America. And to all the public servants that are here, thank you for your service to this great state and to your country. At HUD, we do believe that public housing should be safe. We believe that, and that's our conviction. A safe community starts with safe housing. If the housing is safe, the community is safe. And we want to take good care of the most vulnerable people in our country. And that means making sure that residents in HUD-funded housing can live their lives in peace and security, free from the horrors of violent crime. That's why HUD today we're announcing a new HUD crime hotline to allow the residents of public housing to call the HUD office of the Inspector General, the OIG, to report criminals, illegal aliens, sex offenders, human traffickers, and those guilty of gang activity, drug distribution, and fraud. We're spearheading this hotline right here for the residents of Memphis, Tennessee. This crime hotline is the latest in a series of action HUD has taken to help the American cities and neighborhoods be safe, including of those who live in HUD-funded housing. The Memphis Housing Authority serves more than 9,700 households and receives $107 million to administer federal rental assistance programs. And for all of those that are listening right now, residents of Memphis public housing, or those who might be concerned about the safety of your friends or family who live in Memphis public housing, for all of you, this announcement is for you. And here's our message. Protect your home. Protect your family. If you see it, if you hear about it, report it. And here's how. You can call 1-800-347-3735 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Central Time. Or you can submit a tip online at any time through our website. And here it is, HUDOIG.gov/hotline. And this website is monitored 24/7 in real time. I'm going to say it again. The hotline number is 1-800-347-3735. And the website address is this, HUDOIG.gov/hotline. Law enforcement personnel stand ready to assist you with coordinated efforts with our friends at the DOJ and the FBI and state and local partners. This hotline is part of President Trump's effort to make our cities safe again. That strategy includes the Memphis State Safe Task Force started by President Trump, which is breaking the grip that violent criminals have had on this city, as the Attorney General alluded to, and returning power back to the people and the citizens of Memphis. We've already seen great progress, which you'll hear more about. Since this operation began in October, the task force has arrested more than 3,000 violent fugitives, including up to 12 suspects of homicide and more than 300 known gang members, and much more. These numbers translate to lives and homes and futures protected. Again, we care about the future of America, the lives of every individual and collective Memphis and Tennessee citizens. But this would not be possible without our great law enforcement, and many of you are here today, and our military members. So thank you from me, from HUD, from Attorney General, and our entire administration. I've spoken to many who have traveled near and far to be part of this effort to make our cities safe, true patriots, and great Americans. And I hope that this new hotline is another tool to help this in this effort. The hotline will allow residents of public housing to have their voices heard so their homes can be safe. It will help us to crack down on violent crime and drug distribution, fraud, human trafficking, and the influx of illegal aliens. We'll clean up our public housing so that they can fulfill their function of sanctuaries for the most vulnerable people in our country, where American citizens can get a temporary hand up and then gain independence from government help. Specifically, American citizens, that's who we want to help. Illegal aliens have no place in public housing. It's outrageous that people who should not be here come across our borders and now usurp spots in housing units that should support American people. Establishing this hotline is an important step in fighting this injustice for both the people of Memphis and for Americans nationwide. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here with you all today to make this announcement and this next step in the work that's already underway, and truly to restore safety and sanity in Memphis today. God bless you.
And it's not just Memphis. He just told you that it's nationwide. It's not just Memphis. He just told you it's going to be nationwide. So this will cause a lot of chaos. People calling that number, telling on the neighbors, reporting all types of things on anybody. Going into the same thing Biden spoke about some years back. If you got neighbors who suspected of being radical, then tell on them. Real quick. Book of Matthew, chapter 10, and verse 35, Yahweh shall speak. Start at 34. Think not that I come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and the man's foes shall be they of his own household. Yahweh Shai, this is the spirit of prophecy in the earth. And this was playing out prophecy, that division, not only by preaching the gospel and coming into this truth, but prophecy as a whole. And they're going to cause many to be put to death. Let's get it real quick. So everything is lining up. Kinsman, I'm sorry. Kinsman. This is, let me pause it, man. Shit. Same chop, sorry about that. Yahweh Shai speaking, Matthew 10 and 17. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in the synagogues, and ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they shall deliver you up, take no heed. Take no heed. I lost my spot. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour that ye shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. And the brother shall deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents and cause them to be put to death. You see? So, hey, this is what this is going to cause, all right? Everybody reporting on one another because of ideologies and people thinking people are illegal immigrants and things of that nation, and drug dealers and criminals. So this is going into that neighborhood watch, man. All right? Esau is getting people to do his dirty work or to do his work. All right? And this is the judgment of Yahweh Shema Shai. All right, so I just wanted to hit this real quick through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. Say, prayed up in the names of Yahweh Shema Shai. All praises to Yahweh by Shema Shai, Bahar Makakodash. The honors of the elders and the apostles of the great millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the singing, the beauty elect of the nation of Israel. And scattered abroad amongst the heathen, some looking like the heathen. Begin with the 144,000. Preachers, teachers, and prophets. Shalom.